Fantastic. Right. Okay, so I'm
Welcome, everyone.
talking to Sid.
Uh, yeah, all right. Let me start. Welcome, everyone, to another special edition of our live conversations. Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with the talented Adrian del Greco, an artist whose work reflects creativity, passion, and a unique perspective on the work around us. Throughout this conversation, we'll explore Adrian's artistic journey, the inspirations behind his work, the challenges and triumphs of life as an artist, and the lasting impact art can have on individuals and communities. Whether you're an artist, a collector, or simply someone who appreciates creativity, you're in for an insightful and inspiring discussion. Please join me in welcoming Adrian Del Greco. How are you, Adrian?
Hi. Hello, everybody. It is a privilege for me to speak to the esteemed Sid about
Thanks, man.
art. Art.
Awesome.
Art is life. Art is the human condition. Art never lies. That's from that perspective. So now with that premise, I can say myself personally, I could draw before I could write.
Wow.
So that was the one thing when I was a kid. I used to
Mhm.
communicate to my parents with a little pictogram, show them what I want to do, you know,
Mhm.
and so on. So, and then of course I learned how to write like everybody else. And then I moved down to Durban after my father's passing, and I moved down to stay with my mother's sister, yeah, in Durban. And it was when I was at baby school or infant school or what do they call it, pre-primary these days.
Mm.
I was about 8 years old, and then I had an art teacher um, at school, and then she happened to see my drawings because I drew all over my books and things, and then she said, "Oh, okay." And then she asked me if I wanted to have lessons, and then I spoke to my aunt and uncle, and they said, "Okay." So I went and had lessons with this lady, and they were old. Her and her husband, they were old. I mean, they were young people when World War One was going on. So she was quite an advanced age when I knew her. But all I know is that she was a graduate of the Royal Academy of Art in England, and it was amazing. They had a flat on the Victoria Embankment, and used to overlook the harbour, Durban harbour, and then we draw ships, paint ships, what we could see, out the flat. And then I got my head around one cargo ship, and I was very excited, and I was busy doing it for about 2 weeks. And I think on the third week, I came to a studio, and the ship had gone. I was terribly disappointed. And that's when she said to me, "Yes, but you must draw from memory. Memory. Gotta let it sink in, and then you can still draw. So you just put it in your mind's eye, and then you draw it." So, and so I think from an early age, I learned about the rudiments of art. And then, of course, when I went into high school, it was a different story. And I did art in high school, and I loved it. And then I did various projects at the school. I did the backdrop for a play called HMS Pinnacle, which was one of these English operettas, as they call them. The English are not very good at opera. We Italians are the best, but anyway, I'm not biased. But anyway, so and I had to do a picture of HMS Nelson in the background, and I love this, with uh, Horatio Nelson, Lord of the Admiralty, etc., etc. So, in intrinsic detail, I painted this warship. Then my art teacher came and said to me, "You got to take white, mix it with a lot of water, and you got to spray it over the ship." I wanted to hit him. He said, "It's in mist." They're on the deck of another warship, and they're looking across Scapa Flow at the victory and its mist. So that's how I got to learn about, various elements, weather, environment, feel, all that type of thing. So, and of course, when I finished school, I had to go to the army for 18 months. But when I came out of the army, you never get that spark that you have when you were at school. When I was at school, if I went from school into university and studied art, I think, yeah, it would have been a different story. But then, of course, you get caught up in the humdrum of life, getting the job, work, and all that type of thing. So I had to do art part time. So I did manage to finish a degree in fine art, and yeah, and then I painted. I painted quite a few people. Two Miss South Africas. I did paintings of portraits of two Miss South Africas, and then I did a lot of commissions. People would
Mhm.
phone me and say, they've got Opa, Oma, granddad, whatever, and they'd like a painting done. So I do it. That's what I do. I do these portraits and commissions, and so that up to that juncture, that's where I was at. And of course, now the thing that I locked into was the history of it, because art goes way back, to the cave. Should I say to the Neolithic times, or whenever we started walking on this planet, we we did schematic drawings on the caves depicting daily events, hunting animals, making a fire, this type of thing. And so as art came through the progression from the Greeks, the Romans, and so on, and it was the Greeks that were the forerunners of sculpture. I mean, they and of course they had gods. They had gods. They had Zeus and so on. And then of course the Romans, they borrowed the gods from the Greeks, and they had Jupiter and Apollo and Venus. The Greeks called it Aphrodite, and so on. And they had deities. The Romans, they had many gods, and they had deities. They made massive sculptures of the deities, and that sculpture would be the sculpture would be in the temple dedicated to that deity. So it's the temple of Apollo, the temple of Mars, so on. So all the devotees had to stand outside. There was
Mhm.
no such thing as inside the temple. Only the priests and the ones in the know that were allowed to go in the temple, but no one else. So even if it was raining, you had to stick it out. That's it. And then wait what they tell you. Oh, okay. And then of course now the rise of Christianity when Constantinople when he well I'm sorry Constantine, when he declared that the Roman Empire will no longer be worshipping pagan gods, as they call them. They would become Christians. It's that when the whole thing of art and life, it came to the fore, because what did the artists have to depict Christianity? What did they have? I mean, nobody's seen Jesus. They just know about Jesus being in the Bible. So they borrowed from the pagan god. So they chose Apollo as Jesus. Apollo was now his image. They now depicted a Jesus who had a wand and was very effeminate looking, no beard, long hair. Apollo was supposed to be a perfect human being. So he was neither male or female. Well, he could be either, or whatever, but he was a perfect human being. And so all the if you go like today, even if you go into the catacombs underneath Rome, there's like a necropolis underneath there. You would see various tombs of wealthy Christians, and they had artists do depictions on the walls of these tombs, and then you'd see the Jesus, you'll see, you know, effeminate and so on, and then of course when they decided no, they needed someone manly or someone powerful to be depicted as Jesus, and that's when they used Jupiter, big man, beard, long hair, manly, tough. And then the figure of Mary, where were they going to get that figure from? So again, they borrowed again, the artist, and they borrowed from the Egyptian. So Isis
Mhm.
became the figure of Mary because it was Isis, and she gave birth to a son, Horus, who was she was always portrayed as suckling the child. So they used the same thing. The artists, they used the same thing, and so yeah. And Horus was born on the 25th of December. It's not a liturgical statement, nor am I interfering with theology. I'm just telling you what art says. You can go and see it in the museums, and you can go to Europe and see it. It's there, your own eyes. And that's what I found fascinating, you know, in terms of so yeah. Hmm.
Awesome. All right, I think you just
Yeah.
touched upon what I was going to ask you in my first question, but I'll ask it anyway. Your artwork has a distinctive identity and emotional depth. What first inspired you to pursue art, and when did you realize it would become a lifelong passion?
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I was at school when in high school when I was really taken up, and I was very prolific when I was at school. I mean,
Mhm.
every single moment in time that I would have to myself, I would draw, I would paint, I would, you know, that's what I would do. This was my thing. That's what I did. And I think for me, the people that inspired a lot are the what they call the pre-Raphaelites in England, and these were a group of young students that went against the teachings of the Royal Academy because the Royal Academy they liked Raphael, the Italian artist. They liked his composition, you know, the triangular composition. They liked that, and everything had to be formal on the canvas. There was no relaxed space in form or whatever you can say. There was none of that. So what they did is they studied the Renaissance paintings before Raphael came on the scene, and they noticed that there was a very natural posture of the figures that are in the frames, and that's what fascinated them. And so they actually started doing that in their painting. And they had an exhibition. I mean, these were young guys. They're in their 20s, 19, 20, 22. You know, so they were going for everything, you know, fame, riches, girls, you know, whatever they could get. And there was a big furor in the art world. And even Her Majesty Queen Victoria was very curious. She wanted to go and see these paintings. What's causing all the ruckus, you know? And yeah, so and people were shocked. I mean, they were shocked. John Everett Millay, he did a painting of Jesus in the house of his father Joseph. Joseph, a carpenter. You see, he's got rough hands, planing wood. Um, Joseph's mother was an old woman with swollen fingers with arthritis. Jesus was a little boy that was in tears because he got wood stuck in his palm of his hand, and his mother was on her knees, and so on. And then John the Baptist was standing there, really sheepishly looking, because now apparently they were playing angels. So, but you kind of get the picture, and this is what excited the genteel folk of Victorian England because they never seen anything like this. So, what am I saying? Okay, what I'm saying, I was inspired by these people because they used or they married painting and literature together. So they did paintings about poems, Shelley, Milton, so on. And
Mhm.
and I found that exciting. That's what I found exciting. But the only problem is the executing of such paintings is very laborious because it's like realism to an extent. It's like really intense and takes a long time. Takes a long time. So, so if somebody wanted to have a portrait in that particular style, I can do it. Yes, I can. But it's going to take a long time. And it's going to cost a lot of money. In all fairness, because people think artists,
Mhm.
give them a few thousand and they'll be happy. It's not the case. It's not the case. I mean, you can study art I studied art for years and then studied design, etc. for another 3 years. So in total, I've got like 6 years of visual arts behind me. So why can't I be paid for that 6 years of education? Because like a doctor gets paid for doing 5 years of university. And everybody will say, no, 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 but you can't compare an artist to a doctor. You can't compare an artist to engineer, architect. You know what I mean? This is, but but yet back in the day, and I don't want to sound like an old, but anyway, this is a fact. Art doesn't lie. The architects of the day were artists. For example, the St. Peter's in Rome, that massive cathedral in the Vatican, St. Peter's, it's got the colonnade that reaches out like it's like two huge arms, sort of embracing the faith. That was designed by Bernini, Giancarlo Bernini. He designed that. But he was also a sculptor and he was also
Mhm.
a painter. Yeah. But he was an architect. So, but now, unfortunately, in our modern age, everything is fragmented. We got pigeonholes where things go in. Oh, okay, you're an engineer. Okay, that's what you're going to do. You're going to do structures for the rest of your life till you die, or you're a chemist, or you're this, or you're that. So what is the whole thing about creativity? What is the scope of creativity? Well, it's thinking out of the box for one, because that's what makes people creative. That's what they do. And then they say, okay, now we have different periods in time where you have different movements of art. Yeah, sure. Why did we have different movements of art? Well, we had the First World War, which was a shocker because nobody had seen death and destruction, the scale of the First World War. I mean, it was terrible. My grandfather was in France, and it was terrible. And what happened? The movement called Dadaism or Dada that came out of the First World War. It was when people were against everything, and they were angry. People were angry. It's like, what was that for? Why did so many people die? For what? You know. But yet it happened. So the art reflected that, and you can see people like Marcel Duchamp and others. They were doing abstract works, and Picasso was coming up then, and so on, and they were taking objects and making an art and saying, okay, what is real and what is not real. I mean, for example, there's Picasso's sculpture of the bull, which I thought was really good because he took a bicycle saddle and he hung it with the front end down like this, and then he put the handlebars on top of it, so it looked like a bull. It did. It had that head, and the bars were like horns, and yeah. So there's always that reflection. Art is actually the conscience of humanity. It's like, hey, look what you've done. We're watching. We're making a record. This is it. This is what's happening. If it makes sense to you, I don't know. Are you there, Sid?
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah. So from that aspect, I think it's like. So how did it affect me? Well, I've been in a war. I don't want to reflect what I've experienced because to me that's counter of what I'm doing. It's just so I'd rather focus on good things of beauty, which I think is significant. And now I've lost you, and yeah, so that's where we are at this juncture. So yeah, hello, Sid. Hello. Okay, I'm just waiting for Sid to come back online again. I don't know Sid is. Sid has disappeared. Where you are, Sid. Mm. So yes, so looking back at sort of what I've done, well, I mean, art has been
Sorry about that.
no, no, it's okay. I was talking to a black square. It was very like surreal. I'm in the Matrix. Oh God. No. So anyway, so what I'm saying is that okay. There was a time when the visual arts and music and sculpture and so on, they were all together, and that had happened. I mean, to the fore, one could say it was during the time of the Impressionists. Paris was the in place to be in the late 19th century. Everybody went to Paris. It's all happening there, and you had ballet. Um, for the first time, it was introduced to Europe through the Ballet Russe from Russia, from Imperial Russia. And the impresario was Sergei Diaghilev, and the ladies of Paris, they were like shocked when they saw a man in tights for the first time. When I go, oh, swoon, faint, and so on. But the music that the ballet was set to was an afternoon with a faun that was a French composer, Claude Achille Debussy. So Diaghilev was clever. He said, "Great ballet, French composer, let's do it. It's a winning combo," and he was right. So where am I going with this? Well, the sets for that ballet was done by the artist Georges Walt, also a Frenchman. So it was pleasing to see that all those elements came together to have one big presentation. You know. And then of course
Or,
World War II happened after World War I, and then you had Picasso was the start of protest art. What the hell is going on? And he did that big piece, Guernica. So when the Gestapo came to visit him, because he was in Paris, and they said, "Yeah, who did you do this painting?" And he said, "No, you did, because the Nazis bombed Guernica during the Spanish Civil War, because Hitler helped Franco." So Picasso was aware of it. So he did this hideous painting. I mean, it's ugly, but it's meant to be ugly. It's war. It's like, there's people being killed. And it was a statement that he was making. And then it's interesting to note that the Soviets, they were just like the Nazis. Am I sticking my neck out? No, 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 no. I'm not said art doesn't lie here. Right. The Soviets, they all had neoclassic art. All of their stuff. all the look. If you want to have a political leader, if you want to have him larger than life, you employ a sculptor because he can make them look larger and even better looking out of marble and bronze than they'd ever be in their entire life. And that's what they did. They had statues of Lenin, statues of Stalin, statues of Marx, statues of, all over the place. And so the Nazis did the same. They had statues of Adolf. They had these iconic, sort of like Aryan godlike creatures that they. And Hitler had two favorite intellectuals. There was Honor Brecker. He was a sculptor. And then there was his minister, Albrecht Speer, his minister of armament. Those were his two favorite intellectuals. I know it sounds bizarre, but okay, so where am I going with this? Well, it all mixes in with each other. So, so whatever the artists see in society, they reflect what they see. And even although it may offend people, and some have offended people, some have, but what can you do if it's reality? Because I think human beings I think they have an innate right to actually have a commentary on whatever they see around them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
Mm.
Can you tell me, every artist has a unique creative process. Can you walk us through how an idea evolves from a simple concept into a finished masterpiece?
Ah, right. Okay. So now what happens there is I think of something in my mind. I visualize it in my head. Okay, this is what I want to do. So then what I do is I take that image and then I make preparations for it. I do prep work. I do sketches. I do designs, what we call schematics. So I scribble in pencil. That's basically what I do. I scribble in pencil. And I decide, am I going to have a dark background? Am I going to have a light foreground? Dark foreground, a light background? What am I going to do? So that's what I decide. And then, of course, I look around for model, which is the modern day artist's dilemma, to find models. Because, I mean, you approach a young woman, you see her, maybe you see her in a bar or restaurant or something, and she's absolutely gorgeous. And then you go, hello, um, I'm an artist. I really would like you to be in a painting, composition. And then, first of all, they look at you in horror because it's like you've said something inappropriate, which you haven't. And then,
Mm.
then they say, "Oh, can I see some of your work?" So I take the phone on. Said, "That's me." Okay, I'll think about it. Fine. Please don't think too long. But I mean, in the mid 20th century, for example, and if I had to go to a young woman and say, "Would you pose for me?" They go, "Oh, of course, I pose for you. Don't worry, it's beautiful." You know what I mean? But no, Gen Z, forget it. Get it? They take selfies,
Mm. That's true.
or they take pictures of their food. What are they having
That's
at
true also.
McDonald's? Cheese, bacon. That type of thing. That's what they do. But interesting enough, when I went, I exhibited at a gallery in Park Town in Joburg. And of course, at the opening, it's a whole sort of cheese and wine thing. And I was chatting to the people that came to the opening, the invitees, and The one woman was an educator for secondary education, and she said she took the kids to one or two of the private galleries in Joburg, and she said automatically they were like drawn to the realistic painting, like moth to a light, and they were standing there and they were looking abstract. No, they didn't want to. Don't want to know that. That's too complicated. The realism, perfect. And she said to me, she said the reason why that is because they're so used to their cell phone. Because they take pictures all the time with a cell phone. And what does it do? I mean, there you are. You get a realistic. It's a photo. So they attracted to the photo that they take on their phone. That's like the reality. I've been there, done that. I've been there now. Sorry, Muscat's bomb. Ooh, it's unbelievable. And this is how the thought process works. So in a sense, I think if you're an artist who is into realism and that's your preferred sort of technique, you could have a market with the younger generation. I'm not saying that you may have a definite market, but you never know. But at least I can say now, at my tender age, one of the biggest sort of like landfalls for me is digital technology. As if we've been given benediction from the gods. There you are, children, play. Because it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. And you might be sort of scratching your head and saying, well, why is a classically trained artist so overjoyed about digital technology? Well, you have all the mediums you like on one app. So you got pen, ink, watercolor, acrylics, gouache, oil paint, you name it. You've got it. And you can use it. And if you make a mistake, you just press delete, boom, gone. Start all over again. Or if you like what you've done, you copy it and you put it down on a layer, and then you work on top of that and top of it. So it's wonderful. And digital art has actually been recognized as an art form now in the 21st century, which I think is amazing. I think it's incredible that it's actually been, recognized as an art form. So, and if you go onto, this is for the viewers, anybody watching, you can log on to sachiart.com and you open that website and you'll be amazed at how much art there is out there from all over the world. And you can see everything from hyper realism, where it looks even more real than a picture, to abstract, to digital. It's all there. All there. Up for sale, but it's all there. And the interesting part is that they actually, whichever country you're in, like in South Africa, they change all. If the work is sold in US dollars, when you open the app up in South Africa, it automatically becomes rands. You see. So if you're in India, it's rupees. If you're in China, it's yen or whatever, or euros in Europe and so on. So, and that's what they've done on the app. So they actually do that calculation for you. So you can see, in South Africa, you see something for 500,000 rand, and then you go work it out. Okay, that's in dollars. Oh, okay, all right, I got it. Yeah. So that's it. Mm.
Awesome. How do your personal experiences, memories, and emotions influence the stories you tell through your art?
That is a good question. That is a good question because it's actually linked together. Is literature and art. They're all linked together. And writers, for example, the experiences throughout life, they actually put it in their work. Artists do the same thing, and you can see Van Gogh for example, is an artist who did that. Because he came from a fairly well-off middle-class family in Holland, and he wanted to become a priest, and then he was sent to some place in Belgium, I think it was. He was like a lay preacher, and he had to look after all these peasant poor people. And he ended up giving his clothes away to everybody. And then, of course, the church was like, no, no, no. Vincent, you don't do that. So anyway, he threw his hands up and he said, no, I've got a new passion. I'm going to become an artist. And that's what he painted. He painted what he saw. He painted um, peasants in total poverty. He painted prostitutes. He painted wheat fields. He painted his room in all, and the yellow house where he lived. His experiences in Paris. He painted everything he saw. Another one who was like that was Toulouse-Lautrec. He was on the other side of the spectrum, where he, instead of coming from a sort of fairly well-off middle-class family, he came from one of the most wealthiest families in France. And because his parents were first cousins, he had a problem. So he had a physical defect from birth because of the interbreeding. So his legs couldn't grow. They broke, but they couldn't mend together properly. So he had short, stumpy legs, and he had a full-grown man's torso and shoulders. So anyway, and he knew that he couldn't find a woman in his own social class, because it was like that. So he mingled with the working class. He used to go to the nightclubs. He used to draw. He used to take a little sketch pad and draw, and so on. And he became the first graphic artist, because he did posters out of lithographs, made of stone etching, and he did these big posters of the various places that people used to go to, like the Moulin Rouge and so on. And he used to do posters for the various acts, and of course entertainment. And so one person that comes to mind is a chap called Bruant Aristide Bruant, big guy, wore wide brimmed hat, big red scarf, boots, rough. He was like the how can I put it? He was like a rap artist of the 19th century. He had that vitriol in his lyrics, and he had that rough, edgy voice. But he packed out the crowd. Yeah, the people used to come to his club. They used to see him, you know. And then he'd say, yeah, comes the famous artist Toulouse-Lautrec, and some pimp, I don't know who he is. And that's how he made the announcement. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Uh, all right. Many artists face moments of self-doubt and creative blocks. How do you overcome these challenges and stay inspired?
Oh, but that is a problem, my dear Sid. The block,
Mhm.
the uninspired, the slump, the creative doldrum. I'm in one at the moment, actually, to be honest. I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in one. It's soul destroying. But
Oh.
how do you pick yourself out of it? Well, you've got to look for new direction. So at the moment, I'm pursuing cartooning.
Oh.
Uh, I'm going to pitch at a couple of publications and do cartoons about environmental issues. So I'll use animals to get at politicians. Look what the otters are saying about you messing up the bridge They even brought their cousin, the beaver, from America to have a look at it. That type of thing. And dragonflies wearing gas masks because the water is polluted. All these and you can do that with cartooning. I mean, cartoons amazing. Been going since the end of the 19th century, from about 1880s, around about there. The cartoons have been appearing in newspapers, and they sort of grew into comic books, which I was familiar with when I was a kid, because we had DC Comics, we had Marvel Comics, the X-Men, Superman, Ghost Rider, the Incredible Hulk, and so on. And now with the advent of computer-generated imagery, all these comic characters, they all come to life now. Spider-Man, the Incredible, Iron Man 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. It goes on and on and on. But you can see these characters come to life. I mean, there they are. They're busy flying through the air, jumping from building to building, picking up trains with one hand and so on, like they did in the comics. But now it looks even more real, because now you can see it. Because why? Because the comics are looking over their shoulder what the movies are doing, and the movies are always looking to see what the comics are doing, because they're basically the same thing. It's just that comics have two-dimensional pictures on a page with written words, and the film people have moving pictures with spoken word, but they're all doing the same thing. They're all illustrating the story. So that's why the movie people grab. They say, "I want this." They grabbed it and they said, "Right, we're going to do Ghost Rider." And they did the first one, and they said, "No, we're going to do the second one even better than the first one." And they did. Now the skeleton figure was more real. He had more shape on his skull. He had more sort of, that type of thing. And the Hulk, he looked more like a Hulk, and so on. And Spider-Man became more of a Spider-Man. And Captain America and Thor with his hammer. All these stories that we enjoyed as kids, which we used to read and buy comics, was the buy comics. Now they become film, because of how the digital format has changed the creative sort of like direction of what's happening. And now we live in the time of artificial intelligence.
Awesome.
And that's what
What?
good. Yes, yes. Am I on track, off track, upside down?
No, sorry. Oh no, sorry. I thought you had finished. That's why I was actually asking the question. But then I realized that you were still in your point, so I felt bad that I interrupted you.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, what do I think of AI? I think it's like everything that's created by man. From the first time we actually made a paintbrush where we tied bits of hair onto a piece of wood, and until we had the first oil paint in a tube, which happened at the end of the 19th century. It's the same thing. AI is a thing. As an artist, I could use AI as a tool, and I can do that. I can do that. I don't have to worry. For example, I don't have to worry about looking for models. Well, that's the amazing part. I can look.
Lovely.
I can generate a beautiful woman's face of any ethnicity on. Then I've got it right there. Then I can use that in the composition of my own. Say, okay, this is what I want to do. And I can draw it, and I can paint it. I can do whatever I want to do. Free, no copyright. No copyright. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is marvelous. That's amazing. That is amazing. But the minute I put my the painting and I paint whatever image I've extracted from AI and I sign the canvas, that's me. That's me. Okay. That's me. I've signed it. That's me. So I've taken whatever image, whatever pose I wanted. I've taken that, and I've taken it out of the AI. I've put it into a composition of my own, and I've used it to portray something that I want to sort of evoke in people, and I've used that as a medium. So, what is wrong with that? Challenge. Nothing wrong with that. Because you're not cheating. How are you cheating? It's like when people were doing photorealism in the 80s. People like Richard Estes and Chuck Close and all these people. They were doing photorealism painting. And then the critics were saying, yes, but they're only draftsmen. They're not really artists. And I had that big argument when I was in my third year. I said to my lecturers, I said, no. I'm using a camera to take a photograph of subject matter that I want to paint. So because I'm looking through the lens and taking the picture, I'm actually doing a composition through the lens of the camera. That's what I'm doing. And I'm just taking that image that I was seeing through the lens of the camera. I'm taking that image and I'm using that in a painting. Sorry about the heart. I live in a park. You can see there. See, I live in a park.
No problem.
So we're in the open. We're surrounded by trees and hoddy-daws and bunny rabbits and storks and anyway.
Awesome.
So
Yeah. All
Hmm.
right. What role do culture, heritage, and your surroundings play in shaping your artistic vision and style?
Okay, culture. Well, I'm Italian heritage, so I'm drawn to Italy. Obviously, I'm drawn to it. So
Okay.
classicism really it does something for me. I mean, uh, the sculptures of Bernini and of Michelangelo were unbelievable, still are, and the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci. He wasn't a very proficient painter. But he took his time of his work. I mean, the Mona Lisa, the famous painting, took about 4 years to do that. I mean, imagine. Eh? So imagine that the man who actually commissioned that work, because it was his wife that he painted, he probably went crazy. Leonardo, what are you doing? I'm waiting for a long time for the picture. So but anyway, so yeah, so that I think has influenced me a lot. Yeah, I've never been a landscape person. I've always been drawn to the figurative art for some unknown reason. I like to study humans. Humans are interesting in all our various
Yeah,
shapes and forms. We are
that's
the most diverse species of a kind on the planet. And we are actually, in a way. And I find it fascinating to look at people. And I
that's
don't
true.
mean I don't mean it in a inappropriate way. I just look, see, and then I watch the expressions and how they behave. And to me, that's interesting. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, she's got a weird tattoo. That kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
and I mean, now young people adorn themselves with body art. I mean, it's the same thing. Even my nephew's got tattoos all over the place. I never, ever dreamt of having a tattoo. Because when I was a teenager, tattoos were for people that came out of prison or barkers. But now you see people that are in the corporate world who've got tattoos and so on. So, it's an accepted norm. It's like, okay, that's kind of like the standard of society. People are doing that. This is what they like. This is what they like to do. And I have no issue with that. Not at all. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. But it is a norm. It's like, it's accepted. Whereas 4 decades ago, it wasn't. It was a no-no. So it's only taken 40 years. No, everything's changed.
Yeah. All right.
And things will
Look.
continue to change.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, sorry, sir. I think I interrupted you again.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Okay. Looking
But
back at your artistic journey, which piece of
yeah.
work holds the most personal significance for you and why?
You mean what I did?
No, yeah, just in general, yeah. Looking back at your artistic journey, which piece of work holds the most personal significance for you and why? Can be both.
Okay. Um, I think the one work that I've been drawn to
Mhm.
is The Lady of Shalott,
Uh-huh.
which is done by um, um, John William Waterhouse. It's
Mhm.
yeah, Shalott. She's sitting in a boat and she's sort of drifting on the river, and there's a river bank behind her. So, but her figure's clad in white. It's beautiful white kind of silky, with gold braid, and her hair is absolutely beautiful. Oh, stunning! And this moves me. It's like I've always been drawn to that picture. And then I wanted to do a Joan of Arc, sort of in that style, but I couldn't find the model. I'm still looking for the model. So maybe I have to go to AI to find the model. I know what composition of. I've done the sketches, but I'm even in the painting myself. And myself and my late friend, who was a doctor, we both in the painting. I've drawn us in the painting. I'm just missing the girl, the face. What's she going to look like? What would she look like? Yeah. Apparently, she was very beautiful, but she came from a farm. She was on her parents' farm, and and obviously she would have been in the sun on. So she probably would have been fairly suntan, maybe dark hair. Where's the Western world, or the sort of like, how can I put it, the archetypal artist, that they've gone for that sort of redhead, sort of strawberry blonde face, blue eyes. I don't know. And I've had a couple of ladies that have willingly said they would pose as Joan of Arc, and I took the reference pictures of. And one of them is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, but platinum blonde hair with a very pale skin.
Mhm.
I would love to have used her for this thing. I would have loved to have used, but I couldn't because I would have been lying, dishonest. People are going to look at the plane and say, "Oh, really? But Joan of Arc, eh?" Yeah, who are you
Mhm.
kidding? So I'm going to find that. And of course, this girl had long blonde hair. It was long blonde hair. Joan of Arc had short hair because why? She wanted to look like a man. So men had their hair was long, but it was short. You know, kind of like what the Beatles and some people have today. And and uh, and I think that's. But yes, getting back to the question, yeah, that is the one piece that's really attracted me over the years with my involvement in art. Is that piece? In fact, I'll actually take a image of it and I'll send it to you over WhatsApp. You can see what I'm doing. This is
Awesome.
amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. And I
All
often
right.
wanted to actually copy that as just as an exercise. You know. which I still might do. I don't know. Because artists do that from time to time. And you can do it as long as you state, either on the front or at the back, it's a copy of so and so's work by yourself. That's acceptable. But if
Yeah.
you sign it
Well,
as yourself, you sign it, I did this, then you, or you copy the guy's signature, then you're in big trouble. And you can go to
that's
prison. People have gone to prison when they said, no, you can't. So is there a copyright in art? Yeah, there is. Is there a copyright on style? No, there's not. Is there a copyright on composition and so on? Yes, there is. Yeah. So, so you can do that. And I've got two artworks here in my rondo album here. I've got two artworks by two different artists, friends of mine. And the subject was The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Jan Vermeer, which is another artwork that I love. So I'll take a photograph of both those and I'll send that to you as well if I want some. And you can have a look and say,
that's
okay,
kind of
we've done two different artists, the same subject, but they've acknowledged who that no, this is Jan Vermeer. We've done a copy of his work and they've signed it. So yeah.
lovely.
So there you are.
Uh, the
Yeah.
Yeah, the art world is constantly evolving with technology and digital platforms. How have these changes impacted your work and the way you engage with audiences?
Ah, yes. I think we covered that
Oh
when
yeah, oh
remember when
yeah,
I was talking
oh yeah. Okay, all
CGI
right.
and
Mm.
the
Okay, no
gremlins in the
problem.
room. Like
Yeah,
everybody's like, what? I don't
yeah.
trust AI. I don't trust it. This is what people are saying. I mean, that's what they're saying. It's like, people are saying that we never landed on the moon. We never
That's
landed
true.
on the moon. Come on. What? I was there. I saw it. I heard it over the Voice of America. I was 14, 1969. A big happening. The world came together. The Cold War suddenly went defrosted for like a couple of weeks until the guys came back to Earth and sort of freezed up again, became cold. But
Okay.
and of course now his comment, just an aside, when Armstrong landed, his comment was one small step for man, one great. Just like it sounded so contrite, it wasn't spontaneous.
Mhm.
I think that's what people said. Okay, Neil, when you land on the moon, this is what you're going to say. And they wrote it down. Because I know what I would have done. I would have gone, Yahoo! Oh, I'm on the moon. You know. But anyway, you know. So
Awesome.
so that
Uh,
yeah.
mhm. All right. What has been the most rewarding moment of your career so far, and what lesson did it teach you about success and creativity?
Lecturing, teaching. That's it. That also turns me on. But and I worked in an
Ah,
NGO and I did teach. I taught them about art, the principles of art, gave
mhm,
people methods to make money, to make simple prints, cutouts from potatoes and things. You paint it and
mhm.
stick it on cloth in a pattern, and you use different colors and you sort of overlap them, and that type of thing. And then woodcuts, how we they can cut out designs on wood and then put a roller over it with a color, and then you put the paper on top of that, and then you roll the paper onto the woodcut, and you lift it off carefully, and then you have a pattern, you have a design. There's another technique what people can use to make clothing patterns is where you use candle wax and dye, you know, and you paint whatever you start off by, whatever you want white on your fabric, you paint with the candle wax, and then you dye a color onto that, and then you want that color to stay, you paint the candle wax over that, and so on. So batik is called, and I taught people how to do that, which was very
Mhm.
rewarding for me. It was like amazing. Suddenly, when you look at their faces, the lights turned on. You know? The light is on. Click, click.
Mhm.
Like, wow, this is amazing. So you give them hope. You know what I mean? Give them hope. Okay, now we can do something. Wow, and that's what I did. And that to me was very rewarding to actually impart knowledge and expertise to people. Great stuff. Love it. Love it.
Awesome. For
So
aspiring artists who may be hesitant to share their work publicly, what advice would you give them about finding confidence in their authentic voice?
okay. I would say, and this is advice I should actually take myself, but advising from my experience of it is practice, practice, practice. Draw, draw, draw. Whatever comes into your head, draw. If you are uninspired, go to nature. My art teacher in high school told me, if you go to nature, you have every single shape you can desire in nature. You have organic forms, you have sharp forms, you have rocks, you have solidness, you have this, you have bark, you have texture, you have beauty, color, flowers. It's all there. It's all, and then use the platforms that are available, which we never had as kids. I didn't have that. Even as a young man, I never. So there are platforms where you can show your Instagram, Facebook, um, where else? Oh, Saatchi Art. You can log on to Saatchi Art and create a profile, and then you can download your work as long as it's photographed properly and correctly, and it's more than 720. Um, I think it's PP or whatever. Um, or to have it as clear as possible so people could see it, and then dimensions also very important, so that the folks at Saatchi Art, they can actually put it in context. So they put it in the setting with a piece of furniture and a lamp and so on. So that I think is for me, I think is one of the good things that the young people can do today, because they have all these platforms where they can actually, you know, where they can actually exhibit their work, show people their work. Reddit is another platform where they can also, there are lots of subreddits on Reddit where you can actually join up and put your work down and ask for comment and opinions, which is good, which is good.
Mm,
I mean,
that's true.
if we had to go for reference, we had to go to the library,
Mhm.
pull out the reference library, those big, thick books, you know, and
Yeah.
the only the only figure we had that we could use to draw from is like, for example, I've got one here. I call him Horace, but he's a very rudimentary stick figure, made out of wood, with the limbs that kind of move, and you can sort of crush him and squeeze him or her into any position you want to do, and then you actually draw from there. But the proportions are correct. That's the main thing. But we used to use that at art school, well, at school, and then we were introduced to live models when I went to art school or to university. We had live models, which was a new experience.
Yeah. All right.
So,
I have a yeah, I have a comment. I have a question for you from the comment section. Are you okay if I ask it to you now?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying I have a
What's that?
question for you from the. I'm saying I have a question for you from the comment section. Are you okay if I ask it to you now?
Yes, yes, yes. By
All
all
right. All
means.
right. Yeah. Okay. This is from Jitin Rishika. Hi, Adrian. Art is an inspiration and emotion put into a colorful picture. Have you ever done storytelling through your artwork?
Ah, yes. I've started now. I'm starting on a project where I will be illustrating a graphic novel. So that's going to be a first for me,
Mhm.
which I've been looking forward to, because I did storyboards when I lectured. I did storyboards advertising, um, which is the same thing as a graphic novel, but if you think about it, but a lot more simple in a sense, where everything is not in great detail. It's just like a sketch to show the director, okay, this is what's happening here, and then this frame is moving into that frame, and so on, and you know. So various important points in the script is illustrated on the storyboard. A comic, everything is illustrated. Graphic novel, it's all illustrated. So the whole thing is done in picture, in you know, picture. So so I think the challenge there is to, because I'm going to do it on my own, I have to
Mhm.
design all the characters in it, and then I have to pencil them in like in a graphic novel format, and then I've got to ink them in, and then I have to color them with paints, whatever medium I choose to use. And this is where I say that uh, computer or digital technology will help tremendously, because there you can go into any of those apps, and you can download whatever you've drawn in pencil, and then you can work it through using the app and save it. That's that character.
Mhm.
I know what they look like, what he looks like, she looks like. I know what this. And then you've got that face, and you can use that face, and then you'd actually. And strangely enough, in the days of Walt Disney, when all the old cartoonists, they used to go and have what they call pencil test, which is which I've experienced that, um, which is actually quite interesting, because they have a mirror in front of them, and then they have the 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 paper they're working on is actually on a circle. It's in a circle, so they can turn the circle this way and that way, so they can get in all the angles. And then, of course, now the mirror, they look in the mirror themselves in their full face, and they say, "Oh, I'm frightened. I'm angry.
Mhm.
I'm sort of like pensive." And that's what they draw. They draw themselves. They draw the expression. It's just line. It's just line. Which is the essence of expression, is the person's eyebrows and their mouth, and the eyebrows and the mouth, you know, and yeah, and does the person have teeth or doesn't he have teeth? Has he got a full set of teeth? Has she got a full set of teeth? And they got big lips, thin lips, square lip, square jaw, big nose, small stubby nose, you know, or the cute sort of perky turned up nose, like the Hollywood starlet, like Monroe and all these, all these cute noses, you know. And yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
hope that answers whoever's question
Yeah.
was.
All right. Yeah. My final question to you is, when people experience your artwork, what emotions, conversations, or reflections do you hope they take away after they've left the gallery or exhibition?
Ah, that's like that's a hard one to. I think if people were moved by whatever you've done, they would come and they would approach you. They would actually come to you directly and say, "Oh, well, Adrian, I think that's amazing." You know, and yeah, I mean, so people would come up to me and then talk to me directly about whatever I was exhibiting. But generally, people just, they come through and they have a look, and then those who come and look and then they walk out again. Maybe they liked it, maybe they didn't. But I'm not going to ask them, "Did you like my work?" Because you don't. Either they like it or they don't like it. You can't force people to like it.
Mm,
It
that's
must hit
true.
them here. It's got to hit them here emotionally.
Mm,
It does things for me. You know, when they look at it, they can say that. That really does things for me. Lovely. You know what I mean? So, yeah. and that's the person you get into. So, and then there was a time when I was working on what they call erotic art. And the woman I was living with, she didn't like the art. So every time we had visitors, she always turned my artwork around so that it faced the wall. And then when I sold one, and I got like 15,000 rand for it, she didn't turn them and
Wow.
face the wall again. There was a difference. Like, people have to pay money for this. Hey, cool. Okay. Now I don't mind it now. It's fine. Paint more, paint more. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no. Yeah, but yeah, you see,
Yeah. No.
this
Money talks.
is there a market for it? Yeah, of course. There's a market for everything. I mean, the whole spectrum of what people appreciate out there these days is vast. It's vast. And I think that's what exciting. That whole thing. That's what exciting. So you can just go on the international platforms and see what people are actually exhibiting internationally, and you'd be surprised. Did they really paint it? But yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
All I gotta say that thanks so much for your time, Adrian, and I hope that if you ever are doing an event, just let me know, and then we can have a chat on that particular thing you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I will. I will do that. I'll definitely do that. Yeah. Brilliant.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Wonderful to meet you, Sid. And
Likewise.
I hope to see you in the flesh, so to speak.
Oh,
In the round, as the sculptures say.
yeah.
You can say in the
Yeah.
round. In a 3-dimension. Yeah.
Wow. Take care, man.
Anyway. Okay. Take care, Sid. Lovely being on the show. And I hope the people liked it. What I was
Likewise.
talking about is